Get on your feet. Now time is over with the quickness. Can I get a witness like Jehovah? Amen. Keep it up till I say when. Now I'm busting out the playpen. It's the era of Jake the Bearer. Sparking revolutions like in Guantanamo. Like Pharaoh getting plagued from the hands of the creator. Locust devouring all the hocus pocus. Focus on the most but the curious unload. Content under pressure. About to explode like the Farino. Mean and green, so check my signal. It's the skinny individual who did you well. I kid you not. I think you stop if you got to scheme. Cause my team bring the steam like a wonder from an oasis. And the race is right. Now it's time to take my place in the sun. You can't deny the force. 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 You can't deny the force.
Resistance is futile. We got momentum approval. Invent the time to dance because our views get futile. It's brutal. So expect the pen speed and let the bar symbols all suspended sense.
Self-suppression of evidence will be met with belligerence.
And you can hesitate better because like the president intent. Hence, your confession is expected if you think they were persistent in a method. Yes, you guess it.
Blessed are we who come in the name of J.
Our word spreads like
Oh, I declare.
it's a state of emergency, the prison and a sense. So don't expect no clemency, depend on me, my vanity. It's done forgiving that
You can't resist the skin.
Give yourself a moving, it's still feel the war, a martial law, you see.
Cross, cautiously. You can't deny the force.
No, you can't.
You can't deny the force. You can't deny the force.
No, you can't.
You can't deny the force. You can't deny the force.
No, you can't.
You can't deny the force.
Week 6 of the NFL is here. Nephew Dave,
Deny the force.
Stephen Murray with the Deep End Broadcasting Network. Nephew Dave alongside Nephew Dave broadcasting from the Ocean View Studios in the beautiful Norfolk, Virginia. I myself here from the Deep End Studios in the lovely Chicks Beach, Virginia area. It is just after 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Week 6 of the NFL, Thursday night football, and this is the round robin Thursday football special. Nephew Dave, here we are, Week 6, man. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh man. Well, first off, good afternoon. Good to be in as always. Kind of a I don't know, Steve. It's Chiefs, Broncos. Boy, I don't know. We're gonna have to see what we can find for sure.
All right. I was just getting a text. Possible guest. Yeah, man. And we have playoff baseball too, right? Braves on the brink of elimination with the Phillies. So we'll have to get into that. And then, of course, a full college football slate. And there's some other numbers I want to go over too with you, Dave, and then college football. Because I was looking at your Oklahoma Sooners, and to see that they're still paying 15-1 to win it all seems a little enticing. So I want to get your thought on that and some other numbers as well as we go along. But we do have NFL. We'll start with that. We might get a little bit more NFL later. Boots on the ground in Kansas City with my boy Nick Athen. He is there going to the game tonight. It'd be good to get an update to see exactly what's happening there. But he's with his family. He just might not have enough time to call us before the show ends here right about 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. But a windy night there in Kansas City is what it looks like, Dave. It looks like we're dealing with winds between 20 and 25 miles per hour. The over-under is sitting at 46.5. The total is 10.5. And I haven't seen too much of the over-under drop yet. Kelsey's questionable. He still has a pretty high prop number. So even if he gets on the field, it doesn't play much, just plays a play or two, then that prop is live. So maybe it's worth it to take an under and a Kelsey. But let's kind of get into all that right now. Windy night there in Kansas City. Denver, whose defense is terrible. Maybe we see a lot of ground and pounding tonight. That might be the popular narrative as we go into it. But Dave, you've done a little investigating on this today. I'll get your take first on what you think may happen here at Arrowhead Stadium.
Yeah, Steve. So you think, you hear the wins, you initially think, just as you mentioned, ground and pound. But I also feel like these are two teams, out there on the western part of the country that, are not strangers to the wind either. So, maybe they have a little bit of leg up than, some of the other teams that maybe play, in a dome where it's much calmer. These guys are probably used to the winds. So, Steve, if we're going to go ground and pound, as soon as you said that, we need to check on this number, which I'm going to do right now. I don't love it. I was going to say a Pacheco anytime touchdown, but that's at minus 155. So you would have to take him. I would probably do it for the first touchdown score at plus 450, just to squeeze a little bit better number out of it.
I see Pacheco at minus 135. I see Kelsey at minus 140. I like the Pacheco angle. One of the fantasy gurus I like to try to follow, he loves Pacheco tonight just because of the way that the Denver defense has performed this year, which is terrible. I mean, think about what Bryce Hall did last week with them. And I had that. That was a good prop I had with Bryce Hall rushing yards. And he crushed it against Denver. And he scored as well. I don't know if Pacheco is quite on that level with Bryce Hall. I don't think that he is. In fact, you get a lot of Jerick McKinnon, who has scored a lot against Denver. And actually, his number's dropping. It was closer to 4-1, now plus 340. But I would be a little cautious of Pacheco just because you do sometimes get it running back by committee. McKinnon does have a lot of success against Denver here in recent years. And, maybe Clyde Edwards-Helaire gets into the mix to kind of mess things up a little bit, especially if they're going to focus on the ground a lot more. You might see some of these guys playing more if the winds are that bad. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is paying plus 460. And it'll be an interesting game plan what Kansas City may come out with. They might just be satisfied to kind of get through this game and actually control the clock on the ground. Kind of had a tough go with things in New York. Really blew that lead. Benefited from some calls as well from the referees. So the Chiefs, that was 2 weeks ago, but even with the Vikings was the same kind of dealio. They didn't really put full throttle down. And Denver has almost beaten Kansas City here the last few times out. In fact, I don't know if you remember, Dave, but last year it was a 27-0 lead by Kansas City, and they had to hang on to win 27-24. Denver came back charging. So something about it where Denver does have their number a little bit. The plus 10.5 is interesting on the Broncos' part, just from that angle alone. I don't think the Chiefs, especially with the dinged up Kelsey, are going to come out and fully slaughter Denver. The passing game may be neutralized for sure just because of the wins. But, you said it too. These guys are kind of used to it. But I think you might see a little bit more on the ground, and maybe let's not get totally focused on Pacheco. In fact, I'm going to spread it around a little bit. And honestly, the rushing props don't really look too bad for some of these guys. Pacheco at 77.5, I think is definitely fair game. Javonte Williams for Denver, 34.5, I think is definitely fair game. And I think both the quarterbacks, to be honest, Mahomes 20.5 and Russell Wilson 19.5. I think both of those overs are fair game tonight in a game in which we should see a lot of running backs featured. If you're going to get some receiving yards, it's going to have to be via the yak, I think, tonight. But the wind doesn't necessarily scare you, Dave. Now, it's like 10 to 15 miles per hour. I kind of agree to you. I think 20 to 25 is a little different animal here.
Yeah, it's definitely heavier, Steve. So I'll tell you something that I like is a Jerick McKinnon anytime touchdown and the Chiefs to win at plus 275. Now, I'm not saying they're going to blow the Broncos out, but you would think, at the end of the day, they are the better team. And if, they're going to say, hey, we're the team to beat in this division, then they should come out and take care of business, especially at home.
I like the McKinnon over 14.5 receiving yards as well. So that might be something that we can take a look at if we're building a parlay tonight. And if you do have your books, people, make sure you go to your promotions, because I know there are a lot of no sweat bets tonight. That means that you in profit boost. So that means on the no sweat is that you actually play the game, follow the rules, and if you lose, you'll get that money right back into your account and you can play that again. So it's almost like a free dart, really, to be honest. And if you're going to get those free darts, you might as well make them a little extravagant for a big payout. Don't get too trigger shy, to be honest. As you know, you typically might not do a $50 bet on a 5-game parlay, that's going to pay $5,000 or something like that. But if you're going to get that money back in your account, you might as well take a good shot, at least. So I would look at McKinnon, Dave. I would look at maybe the passing prop totals. See, Mahomes 272.5 sounds like an under to me. And Wilson at 217.5. Now he might get some Jerry Jeudy running and streaking down the sidelines or something like that. So I'm going to kind of stay away from that. But I would be good with the Mahomes under 272.5. That's a lofty number if it's going to be really, really windy. And if Kelsey is dinged up. Now, the whole Kelsey thing could be a mirage. And here he goes, 3 touchdowns tonight. Screws everyone's tickets up. So that's just kind of the way things happen sometimes. But I'm going to go with the narrative of the wind and everything that would dictate, which means running, low passing, and running back touchdowns. That will be my angle tonight, David. Anything specific you're going to play here?
I'm going to play, I'm going to play a Jerick McKinnon touchdown for sure. I'm going to pair that with the Chiefs to win the game. Like I said, that number is at plus 275, and I'm probably going to parlay that with some hockey stuff this evening too.
All right, yeah. Okay, and why not? We are here into the hockey, so let's go ahead and maybe look at a couple of those games, and we'll get to the college football and the baseball playoffs coming up as well. But we'll go do a quick cruise through the menu here, take a break real quick, and come back and hit the college football and the baseball. So hockey right now, Dave, your first instinct with Red Wings and Devils, 7:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time game tonight.
I want to say this is an over game, Steve, with the kind of retool and overhaul that the Red Wings have done. They went out and got them some offensive help for sure. And then we saw what the Devils did last year, Steve, and there's no reason to think that they can't generate, the same output. And that team, they can score. So I guess it's going to depend. Let's take a look here real quick and see what the goaltending matchup is going to be, because that's going to kind of be important. You got Ville Husso.
Yep.
And Vanacek.
And Vitek Vanacek, yeah.
He played very well for them last year, but still, I think this is a game that could go, 4-3 New Jersey, with Detroit, really making things interesting.
All right, so a high-scoring game there. Over-under in this one is at 6.5. Rangers and Sabres. These are out of order, as this game is actually a little bit earlier than the 7:40 game. Rangers and Sabres. Rangers disappointing in the postseason last year after blowing that 2-0 lead to the Devils and then losing in 4 straight. The Sabres looking to take the next step in their journey towards a playoff, one in which they've been absent from for a long time now. But the Rangers a slight favorite on the road, minus 125, over under 6.5. What might you see here?
Again, Steve, these are both pretty good teams. The Rangers, as you mentioned, on the road, they got a -1.5 on the puck line at +185. I think that's for very good reason. I think I would stay away from that. Buffalo's at home, and like you mentioned, Steve, this team feels that they are ready to take that next step and finally get a postseason berth, which they weren't far from last year either. So this team is ready to make that next step, and I kind of expect them to as well, Steve. So you could see another over game here as well.
Igor Shesterkin, a little bit down last year as far as expectations go. He'll be the goaltender tonight against Devin Levy for the Sabres. But Shesterkin, you hope that he rebounds a little bit better. Playoffs-wise, too. I mean, when you're up 2-0, then your goaltender should be able to shut it down for the rest of the series and at least get you the last couple of wins that you need. But to lose 4 straight, I think is a little bit of a negative mark on his resume now at this point. So we'll see how he rebounds this year. You'd agree with that, Dave? Maybe might have a little bit better year this year.
You would think so with the caliber of goalie that he is. Like you said, that was just really a down season for him last year, but I would expect much more coming into this year.
All right, so the Rangers a slight favorite on the road at the Sabres. The Flyers and Blue Jackets here. The Blue Jackets -120, Philly even money, over under 6.5. Dave, Philly got off to a hot start last year, and if I'm going to take a little bit of a gamble, it might be here on the Flyers again. In fact, they're getting out of alt line. If they win by 2, the Flyers are +220. And to win by 3 is +390. Now, I'm not saying they're super great. I mean, these teams have a lot to be a lot to prove. Let's just say that, especially with Merzlikins for the Blue Jackets and Carter Hart for the Flyers. Here we go, Carter Hart again, still in the net. But if he can ever find his old self, then maybe that gives these Flyers a chance. And he's been a little bit better than in recent years last year. But the Flyers, new coach, maybe a new attitude. And all these hockey teams have a lot of turnover so far. So everyone just kind of pay attention to how it starts. I would give everyone 5 or 6 games before you really kind of start to get a feel on how a team may be. But can you see the Flyers maybe beating the Blue Jackets here, Dave?
Steve, I'll tell you what, you kind of just said it. That would maybe be the one shot that I would take in this game. I just really don't know what we're going to get from Columbus again this year. They were, bottom feeder there in the Metropolitan Division. So, and I think that maybe they're not the absolute bottom feeder of it again this year, but I think they're definitely going to be, trending down there for sure. So if you really wanted to take a gamble, Flyers -1.5, I think is probably the only thing I would be comfortable with doing. And I think that would really be a gamble as you mentioned, Steve.
Yeah, definitely a gamble.
These
risky
two teams
Thursday night
really have a lot. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of tough things.
Sure.
There's a lot of tough things in the board. This one just kind of sticks out as a weird one. I'm not, I get it.
It's
Columbus
a run to the hills for me.
Yeah, Columbus is the favorite because they're at home, and I get it. It is a run from the hill scenario. But I'm just expecting Philly to be a little bit better. I'm not so sure about Columbus. We shall see. Okay, Florida Panthers, good game at Minnesota Wild. The Wild -140, over under 6.5. Dave, you liked the Panthers last year, but injuries did them in the playoffs. They were really battered by the time they got to the Stanley Cup. Do you expect them to pick up where they left off? And when I mean left off, I'm not talking about losing the Stanley Cup. I'm talking about all the momentum they gained down the stretch of the NHL. I can see them being formidable again.
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. I think they're one of those teams that maybe didn't have all that much turnover that we've been seeing from the other teams. And I think they could be, dangerous again, Steve. But this should be actually a pretty good game. Maybe I'll put this on the ESPN Plus because I am kind of intrigued, Steve. I want to say an under here just because I don't know if I can trust Minnesota's offense.
Well, we have two good goalies too. With Bob Broski is back for the Panthers, and Philip Gustafson, a good goalie there for the Wild as well. So I would lean under with you under 6.5. That's a pretty sharp angle, actually. I like that. Seattle is at Nashville tonight. Both of these teams have played already. Nashville just 2 shots on goal in their opening period. They didn't really impress me. I think Seattle's a better team here. The Predators just a hair of a favorite, minus 112, minus 108 for Seattle. But I would like the Kraken in this one, Dave, to be honest.
Yeah, Steve, and I tell you what, this is probably going to be another under game from me. The Predators just don't have that wow offense. You know what I mean? So I have it at 6. I might move it one way or the other just to get that hook on there. But this is another game that I could see going under the total.
And if you want to get super crazy, you get 9-1 on the Kraken to win by 4 goals. They should have some decent offense. They didn't show it the other night in Vegas, but I would expect a better effort tonight. Dallas is at home against the Blues, minus 215 for the Stars, over under 6.5. St. Louis is a team I'm going to pick on right off the bat. So I would look at Dallas here, Dave. You got anything?
Yeah, Steve, I'm going to go with the puck line, minus 1.5. And I was looking at this earlier, and it didn't give me an alt line, and I'm hoping that changes closer to game time because I actually want to take Dallas minus 2.5. I think they could come out, and if they can get a hot start, they could really put the screws to St. Louis, especially being at home.
Minus 2.5 plus 200, minus 3.5 plus 480 for the Stars tonight. Vegas Golden Knights are at San Jose, minus 255, over under 6.5. Again, I think this is a game that the Knights can handle San Jose fairly easily. A healthy Knights team, nice win the other night at home. They can carry that act on the road and ruin the home opener here for San Jose. You going to back the Knights in this one?
Absolutely, Steve. Another one that I was looking for an alt puck line that hadn't opened up yet. So I'm hoping that they do because this one could be, you could go 2.5, maybe even 3.5 for the Knights here.
Plus 164 for 2.5, plus 400 for minus 3.5.
Yeah, and I expect San Jose to be a bottom feeder this year, so the Knights should roll here.
All right, and Arizona will be at New Jersey tomorrow, Pittsburgh at the Capitals. Hey, don't be surprised if Arizona wins that game. They're getting over 2-1 to win that game at Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh did not look good the other night. I know everyone has them touted nicely, but Arizona has a few nice players. I'm reading a little bit about them, Dave, after our conversation about let's do a little bit more research. And Arizona has some seasoned veterans here that they brought along that might help their cause. So,
hey,
Arizona,
you know what, Steve?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you're good.
Just like last year, Pittsburgh loses to the Blackhawks again. Maybe that's their kryptonite, but yeah, Steve. Oh man, you love to see it if you're not a Pens fan, but if you are a Pens fan, that's not what you want to see coming out the gate.
All right, let's take a quick break. I'm going to get a sip of water here. When we come back, we will go through the college football slate. Major League Baseball has a game tonight as well. Maybe we'll get Nick Athen to chime in here before we get off the air to discuss the Chiefs and see exactly what the weather is doing there in Kansas City tonight. All right, let's take a quick one. Hang on. We'll be right back after these messages. This is the Round Robin Thursday football special. CP Shuckers Cafe and Raw Bar specializes in delicious cuisine, refreshing drinks, and a laid-back atmosphere. We opened our doors in 1995 and have enjoyed being a place to either relax or celebrate ever since. Whether you are in the mood to indulge in a great meal with your friends and family or watch the game, we promise that our inventive menu, attentive service, and skilled bartenders will have you truly satisfied. Both of our locations have spacious outdoor patios for enjoying the breeze and catching a little sun. Our friendly staff at CP Shuckers will make your next dining experience a pleasant one by delivering personal care. We are open until 2 a.m. Full menu will be served until 10 p.m. and late night limited menu until 1 a.m. For larger parties, please give the location of choice a call. Pacific Avenue, 757-425-8676 or Shore Drive, 757-412-2929. More information at cpshuckers.com. Thank you for your continued support and have a shuckin' good time.
Hey, does your home have algae or stains on the siding? Is there grime built up on your deck or brick patio? Coastal Pressure Washing Services has a warranty of professional services. From pressure washing to window cleaning to deck and fence staining, as well as dryer vent cleaning, you got it all. Call Coastal Pressure Washing at area code 757-439-9810 or visit our website at coastalpressurewashing.net. Again, call Coastal Pressure Washing at area code 757-439-9810 or visit our website at coastalpressurewashing.net.
Dependable Solutions can provide all voiceover services for your advanced audio production needs. Think of us as an inexpensive option, no matter what the size of the project is. From one-word cameos to full script productions, contact Dependable Solutions at 757-354-5517. Do you want to advertise with Deep End Broadcasting? Send us an email at deepend757@yahoo.com. That's deepend757@yahoo.com.
This is the Deep End Broadcasting Network.
It is estimated that 23% of car accidents each year involve a cell phone. That's 1.3 million accidents a year. Reaching for your phone, you are 4 times more likely to crash. Dialing on your phone, 2.8 times more likely to crash. And texting on your phone, you are 23 times more likely to crash. Attentive drivers are safe drivers.
Know your gambling limits. Don't ever bet what you can't cover. Wagering on sports is only fun when you do it the right way. Not every bet will win. When you get on a bad run, know it and avoid trouble. Know your gambling limits.
Control your alcohol. Don't fight. Don't drink and drive. Your one punch could kill someone. It happens. You're behind the wheel. You may think you are fine, but then the other driver is under the influence of texting, and then you are done. Control your alcohol.
This is the Deep End Broadcasting Network.
All right, Major League Baseball tonight. 1 game 4. Everything else is in the books. The Astros take out the Twins, 3-1. Sweeps by the Rangers and Diamondbacks. So if you have your exact matchup of Diamondbacks and Phillies or Diamondbacks Braves, then you will have interest in this game tonight. Philadelphia is an underdog at home. I'm not sure how. Plus 132, over under is 8. Ranger Suarez, who has very questionable and iffy regular seasons, just simply is one of those players that shows up in the postseason, and he has done so far this year. Strider, on the other hand, has struggled in this role, and it's not like he's been super off the charts this year as well, as Spencer Strider is on the mound for the Braves. All right, Dave, this is Game 4, Game 5 is back in Atlanta. If Philadelphia wins, they move on. Do you think this series goes back to Atlanta?
I do not, Steve. I just think we talked about this, and you were right. I just think the Phillies are just all over them. They're in their head, I think.
Right.
We could,
Yep. We were all over that for
team.
sure.
Yeah, we could see another 100-win team go down. And Steve, I think that's what happens. Phillies at plus 124 might find their way into my parlay.
I had a bunch of little tiny $5 exact World Series matchups. The Phillies and the Orioles were, I had them both beating each other. So that was one I was looking forward to. But I do also have Phillies against the Rangers, and I think I have Phillies actually winning that. I'd have to look at that. I think that's what would happen. I'm a big believer in sometimes it takes you that one extra. You might get there, and then it takes you that one extra step to go ahead and hoist it. That usually seems to be the case in like championship games, more so than in the finals. Well, I'm talking about conference championship games. In this instance, the National League. But the Phillies had a taste last year. I feel like their bullpen's a little bit better. They got that karma. They have a great home field advantage. But if it's something like Phillies and I don't want it to be the Astros again, that's for sure. But if it's Phillies and it could just be a rematch of last year as these teams are still alive. But Phillies Rangers is one I'd like to see. I think that would be a fun World Series. And I think you're right. I think Philly gets it done again tonight. Bryce Harper, plus 420 on a home run. I think you could see some runs here for sure. Trey Turner plus 450. It has been home run derby for these guys. If you've been playing the home run props for these guys at home, then you're getting a good take here, especially Harper. He's been on fire. Also, these guys that have RBIs as well. The RBIs is a good one that pays out. If you look at that, let's see here. Let me find to have 2 RBIs. Here we go. All right, to have 2 RBIs tonight, Austin Riley plus 420, plus 430 for Olsen, Ozuna plus 440, Albies plus 550, Acuna 6-1, Pilar 6-1, Sean Murphy 6-1. These are all Braves. Schwarber plus 650, Realmuto plus 650, Bryce Harper plus 650, Alec Boehm plus 700, Trey Turner plus 700. All those are great numbers. Nick Castellanos plus 700 to have 2 RBIs tonight. As I think we get another high-scoring game. I don't know why it's 8. I had a little bit of an alt over last night. I tried to go over 12.5. Probably should have gotten there because the Braves didn't do it. But the Phillies were able to do that themselves. And I think if I can find that one prop, they have the race to runs, Dave, something you might like too. Like the Phillies race to 5 is plus 310.
Right.
If you want to do something like that. Let's see here. Do we have I think it's under this one. Is it under innings? I found the team alternate total runs at one point, but now I don't see it on here so much as I'm trying to find that. Maybe is it batter props? See, there's so much stuff on here to go through all these menus. If you can't find a Philly total runs, I don't see an alternate runs. It's just 3.5 is the Philly total runs, Dave. Once you take that all day here, just straight up.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that looks like a good play. I'm going to have to throw that into something, I think, here as we go through the evening. Over under 3.5 team runs for Philadelphia. Even if we do get to the here we go. Philly alternate total runs for them. Over 5.5 is plus 310.
Really?
Over 6.5 plus 530. Over 8.5 is 14 to 1. They got to 10 last night, and that would have paid you 16 to 1. So if they do another Philly bash session, then they're going to get there. I don't think maybe they get to 10 tonight, but I could see them getting to 7. Or 7 at plus 530. That's a pretty good number there. So I'm going to have to do their regular runs and something, and I'm going to have to go ahead and do over 6.5 and 1 as well. They also have profit boost for this game as well. So if you can just find a couple things in play, like maybe over 6.5 and like a Bryce Harper for 2 RBIs or something like that. Phillies to win or something like that. You're going to get a nice profit boost. Probably not the Phillies to win, because if you're going to take over 6.5 and a Harper prop, then you do well. But maybe take, Acuna to have a hit or something like that, or 2 hits or something. But good numbers all the way around here on the baseball. We're going to have to take a look at some of those, right, Dave?
Absolutely. No doubt.
All right, so we're both in agreement there. The Phillies can win potentially in somewhat of a romp. All right, let's get to the college football. And let's start with the national championship odds. Georgia is at plus 250, Michigan plus 350, Ohio State 9 to 1, Florida State 9 to 1, Penn State 12 to 1, Washington 13 to 1, Oregon 13 to 1, and there are your Sooners, Dave. 15 to 1, right ahead of Alabama at 20 to 1. I like both of those numbers with Alabama and Oklahoma, to be honest, because Alabama, right, I think they're heading in the right direction as far as being better than Georgia. And if you think Drake May from North Carolina might have some Cinderella story and lead his team there, kind of like how TCU snuck in, don't doubt North Carolina. 100 to 1 for them to win a national title, Dave. USC all the way down to 24 to 1 as well, as people expect them to regress with that defense. There's some decent numbers out there. Anything you like?
There really is, Steve. Penn State with that defense at 12 to 1 might grab my attention a little bit. They have a big game.
I think you can take a lot of these teams. I think you can sprinkle some of these higher teams, like maybe throw in a Penn State, throw in Oklahoma, an Alabama, and then you're going to get a nice payout if just one of those hits. And just in case craziness happens, throw in North Carolina for the ACC, because honestly, Florida State at 9 to 1 would have to fall victim to them if UNC can get through.
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. And Oklahoma at 14 to 1 to win it all is not really a bad number. You see, they jumped all the way up to 5 with that win over Texas, and that defense is much improved. Looking like one of the top squads defensively in college football right now, and they can score points with just about anybody, Steve. That offense is electric. Yes, they have the injury. They lose Anthony, their wide receiver, for the season. So it's next man up on that front, Steve. But I don't think, anybody on that Sooners sideline is scared. So they can score, and, man, that defense has gotten so much better. It'll be interesting to see what they can do if they can sneak their way into the playoff.
Dave, there's something that I have called the reload chance. All right. And the reload chance is this. And this is actually a new lesson for you listeners out there. I don't think I've ever really brought this up. A tactic I've used before, I rarely used, but I'm going to use this in the case of like someone like Oklahoma here. So here's what you do, to be honest, and I'll talk about it a little bit more. But say we like the over the 6.5 in the Phillies Braves tonight, right? Well, we parlay that with Oklahoma to win it all. And now, instead of putting down $25 to win basically $375 on Oklahoma is what they would pay out at plus 150, you could now get on that same 25 the payout will be if the game in Philly goes over 6.5 with the Phillies, that is tonight. Say they get 7 runs or more, and you can dumb it down. You can dumb it down to 3.5 if you want, the normal. The moral of the story is that is going to make your Oklahoma 15-1 jump through the roof. Now, if you lose, you just reload and do it again with something else until you get one that hits, and that's going to juice this number up pretty good. So this $25 bet with the Phillies to get over 6.5 runs and Oklahoma, 25 now pays $2,495. A big difference from that 375, only by adding one other play to the mix. And you know what? You still get, if you lose, you just kind of refire and do it again, you know?
Right.
So not the worst strategy. The other way you can kind of do this is if you like Oklahoma to win the national championship, we'll just using them as an example. And I'll throw North Carolina in there just so we get some crazy numbers. But let's look at the NFL futures. And if we go to odds to win the Super Bowl, we'll throw the 49ers in there at plus 450 because they look like the best team to me by far. It's not even close, although you are getting the Dolphins at 10-1 still, which is nice. So maybe you could do Oklahoma and the conference winners of San Fran and Miami in a 3-way. But now your Oklahoma and San Fran bet, $25 pays you $2,175. And that gives you something to root for both of them that will cash out right around the same time as well, right? So Oklahoma 49ers parlay, 25 pays $2,175. Now let's take North Carolina. Let's just say they run the table in the ACC. And if they do, they will get in, is what I'm hearing. They'll be in a playoff. Anyone who runs the table is going to be favored over anyone else, just the way that this season has played out with the parity of a bunch of teams just being really good. But we'll take out Oklahoma and we'll throw in North Carolina at 100-1. A $25 bet for North Carolina and the San Francisco 49ers pays $13,862. So maybe you don't want to throw 25 on it, right? Maybe you do if you're a Tar Heel fan. You can throw $2 on it if you want. But $2 wins you $1,110. So why not take a shot with that? And that gives you some rooting interest for the weekend. We'll just minimum deposit of $5. If you put $5 down, $2,772 for North Carolina to sweep the table in college football. Drake. So what are you doing is trusting Drake May just to be the man, to be honest. That's really what you're doing. And he does have weapons around him. Now everyone will be like, yeah, North Carolina ain't winning it. Yeah. Well, would you rather have them now at 100-1, or would you rather have it when this Final Four starts, just to be dancing with that big number? I think you'd rather have it now, right? So it's worth the small chance now with a very winnable schedule as well. North Carolina coming up. So the $5 to win, $27.75 Tar Heels 49ers parlay. Now I'll take that one step further. We mentioned if we like something like the Dolphins and the 49ers, all right, to win their conferences. So let me just plug those guys in real quick. Conference winner Miami, conference winner San Francisco. Now a $5 bet if you want to do that. If you think it's going to be exact matchup with Miami and the 49ers, $5 pays $8,486. So that's a big number for just, hey, you're basically just rooting for 3 good teams at this point, 2 of which look like they're dominating their conference. Right, Dave? Not a bad strategy, right? To plug some.
Not at all. Not at all. You got to take a chance somewhere.
Yeah, and I think we forget about these kind of numbers too. But here, week 6 is about the time you want to start firing on some of these, because these teams will either get just lower odds, or some of the teams with further odds. If you can identify one of those, like the Lions to win the NFC, maybe you want to take a shot on them. Lions to win the NFC, and let's just throw in. Let's try someone else besides North Carolina. Let's throw in Alabama. That'll be a good one to throw in. Actually, let's throw in USC, 24-1. So Lions to win the NFC, USC Trojans to win a national title. $25 wins 5,600. I mean, they got so USC, they just basically have to win their Pac-12 and they'll get in there. Everyone's dumping on defense, that's for sure. But one of these guys, Washington and Oregon, will still be eliminated probably this week when they play each other. And USC, as long as they can handle business against a very exhausted Notre Dame team, then they can crush it. So, Dave, we got some numbers to play around with this weekend while we're watching football.
Yeah,
there you go.
Absolutely, we do.
All right, let's look at some games. Thursday slate. We'll go real quick through these. West Virginia, Houston. Any opinion there?
That West Virginia defense actually looks pretty good, Steve. They're playing pretty nice right now. So, I was a little bit wrong on them to start. So they're proving me wrong. So, Steve, the total's at 50 right now. West Virginia, they like to run the ball a lot. So let's go under, just knowing that they like to run the ball and that defense is looking pretty sharp too.
West Virginia is good, and I wouldn't doubt if they can handle Houston fairly easily, to be honest. To win just by a couple scores over 3-1 for West Virginia. SMU was another favorite on the road at East Carolina down in Greenville, a couple hours south of us. SMU minus 12.5, 49.5 on this. Any opinion here?
Steve, not really. Probably a game SMU should win. But ECU at plus 350 on the money line, I mean, maybe something to consider.
All right. I'll play that. Colorado Friday night host Stanford. Stanford plus 320. They've been not the worst. And they're coming off a bye week. That helps them for sure. Colorado could be a little bit more exhausted. And are they really partying all day on a Friday? I know you party on a Saturday. Friday game's a little different. You have classes still. Everyone's kind of getting together. They're hungover from Friday or from Thursday, kind of. And all right, here we go. Must have a Friday party. Kind of weird because we had classes too. So maybe not as crazy of an atmosphere. I'm sure it will be because it is Dion. But Stanford and Colorado, any upset there for you, David?
No, Steve, I don't think so. Colorado on a Friday night, I think it'll be rocking. The spread, I'm not so sure about. The over, I'm also not sure about. Can Stanford help that cause? That's what worries me. So, Steve, some stuff to think about before that game comes on at 10 p.m. Friday.
All right, and I'll pass on that. Florida State is playing host to Syracuse. I'm going to look for Florida State to put a beat down on Syracuse, a team that got crushed by Carolina last week. I think it's basically going to be about the same thing. Somewhere around 40-7 is what the score was last week. I could see this being a little bit worse, actually, than that. Maybe Syracuse can score twice. But there's a prop to win by 31 points or more. And Florida State, I think, is a good candidate for that against Syracuse. What do you think? Anything for you there?
Yeah, Steve, I think you could move this spread. And I would look at probably, minus 23.5, 24, somewhere in that neighborhood. But Florida State should roll Syracuse. It looks like the wheels are kind of starting to come off there.
Alabama, a big favorite, 20.5 over Arkansas. Ohio State minus 19.5 is at Purdue. Two big favorites, two teams that have been a little bit lackluster, but still could be going more in the right direction than the wrong direction as far as a playoff goes. Alabama just really needs to run the table out and beat Georgia. And I think that gives them a path just from their reputation alone. But you like either of those two? I think I'll take a pass on them. I'll look for better plays. But you got anything there?
No, Steve, that's a pass. If you told me I had to do anything, maybe an
I'll take
overplay.
Alabama. If I had to take anything, I'll take Alabama. But I'll pass.
Yeah, I don't like minus 20 though.
That's a big number. Arkansas could give that to you, though. Maybe, I think. Okay. Georgia laying 31.5 at Vanderbilt. They seem to be playing a little bit better. Is this a hammer job? I suspect that it will be. I could see Georgia scoring in the 50s and maybe Vanderbilt 0.
Yeah, I'm hoping that maybe Vanderbilt can find their way into the end zone twice and Georgia does the rest for over 56.
Michigan's 33.5 over Indiana. They've been a cover machine, Michigan, if you have seen them play. In fact, PJ Fleck, the coach at Minnesota, said that they're about as good of a team that he's seen play ever. So Michigan is locked and loaded. Let's trickle on down to Oregon and Washington. Number 8, Oregon, the Ducks. At number 7, Washington, the Huskies. Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix, good quarterback matchup. But they got some defense on these teams too. Over under 67.5 here. Washington, a little bit weaker defense than Oregon. Do you have a play on this one?
Steve, these two teams, when they meet, they usually hammer each other. So I would expect this to be a pretty high scoring game. The total's probably about pretty right. I don't think I would move it too much.
Right.
I would just kind of leave that where it is, but I may add that to something that I do for Saturdays.
I like this Oregon team. They showed me a lot against Colorado. I'm going to say that's more Oregon than less on Colorado, to be honest. An interesting prop. If Oregon can win by 14 or more, you get 16, or not 16, but you get 6-1 odds. So plus 600 for Oregon to win by a couple of scores. I would look at that. I love this line. Illinois has not covered a spread all year. You only have to lay 13.5 for Maryland. This could be a classic Maryland and over 50.5, as I think they run away from the Illini here in College Park. Any thought on that?
Maryland should roll. They should be able to steamroll Illinois. Illinois not looking very good, and I think I would do an alt cover here at like 17.
I think Texas A&M rebounds from their loss against Alabama, and they can win at Tennessee. They're catching 3 over under 55.5. Do you favor the Vols or do you like the Aggies?
I think I like Tennessee in this spot. Probably I would say by 6. So give me a alt minus 5.5 spread.
The over-under for Iowa and Wisconsin is 34.5. Wisconsin is laying 10. I mean, come on, guys. You can't get to 35 points. But they're preaching wind, these windy games coming through the Midwest starting tonight. But maybe it calms down by Saturday. We'll have to pay attention to that. I think that number's too low. I think we can climb to at least 5 touchdowns. Is that going to be your first play on Saturday, Dave? Is it take over 34.5? There in Madison?
Possibly. I'm just worried about can Iowa help that. I think that's the problem.
You need yeah, that is definitely a problem. I think 13 points by Iowa can get you over that total. So that would be the key number for them. In fact, let's see what that is actually. Iowa away team total points is 11.5. So I'll price that just right at minus 142. So I'm right on the number with that, pinning it right at 13 flat. Okay. Let's see. Anything else? Yeah, there's going to be a couple more games here. ACC game, Louisville and Pittsburgh. Louisville minus 7.5, over under 44.5. They continue their success after beating Notre Dame. Pittsburgh now, Dave, coming off a bye week. So they're fresh and a classic letdown spot, as they say.
Yeah, Steve. But Louisville looks pretty good. So I would have no issue backing them here in this game.
We talked about North Carolina maybe winning the national championship at 100-1 odds. And this is your shot now, because if they beat Miami, it's going to drop drastically, to be honest. So minus 3.5 for the Heels, over under 56.5. The Hurricanes with one of the worst losses in football sports history. Coaches telling the head coach, kneel the ball. What are you doing? And they hand the ball off and fumble it. If you don't know what we're talking about, just go back to Google it and get a video. But when Miami could have ran the clock out, they decided to run and hand off the ball, fumble, and then Georgia Tech, who was silenced the entire game, goes 80 yards in just 2 drives and scores the winning touchdown, in which they never should have had the ball. Miami could have kneeled down. I think that's a hangover effect for the Hurricanes, and the heels are rolling. They'll be at home. That's going to be a good atmosphere there in Chapel Hill. 3.5 is too light, Dave. I think the Tar Heels can win this by 14 or more. Miami demoralized after last week.
Yeah, what an awful loss. It's that situation that is just an absolute nightmare to all teams when you're in that certain situation. Why they did that, Steve, I have no idea. That's one of the worst losses that you'll probably ever see. So yeah, give me North Carolina here taking advantage of maybe a mentally beat up Miami team after that.
USC and Notre Dame. Notre Dame minus 2.5, over under 60.5. Again, this is a team who's played weeks on end here. They haven't had a break. USC has not played their best football yet. Their defense can be a little slack for sure. We may have wind here. 60.5 is the total. Do you like the Trojans or the Irish?
Probably the Trojans here. And
yeah, I think so. I do too.
I wouldn't be scared to go 2.5 the other way with them.
I'll give you one upset of the day. This will be a Saturday 8:00 game down at Duke with North Carolina State. You got to remember the Duke quarterback is out. So I'm going to trust NC State here at +3 and at +126. And if you get them on an alt line as well on the win margin, NC State to win by 14 points or more is +550. So I'm going to take a shot with the Wolfpack, who won ugly, but they've been winning. And I'll take a shot at them. It looks like that over 6.5 is going to come through. I like to better over 5.5 for the season. Got moved to over 6.5. I did not take it, but the Wolfpack are on their way to that number with a win here tonight in the schedule that plays out ahead. So that would be my upset of the week. Dave, do you have any upset of the week here or anything else we should look out for?
Let's see. Upset of the week, Steve. I haven't gotten quite that far. I'm going to go against the grain there. I'm going to trust Duke to get it done at home. Yes,
right.
Is out. But I just like the energy that they're playing with.
They are very balanced for sure, even with the quarterback.
Exactly.
Wrong. If the backup guy now he's good. They need the backup to be really, really good too. But he at least has a defense around him a little bit and some skill players as well. So that'll be that for them. All right, David.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and get on out of here. We'll go ahead and close up the show. But your best bets of the night are?
The best bets that I have right now, Jerick McKinnon to score and Kansas City to win, and then the Phillies on the money line to get it done and move on.
All right, I'll take Philly alternate runs. I'll take a look at that tonight. I'll go ahead and take the alternate puck lines in Vegas and the Stars as well. I think you're on that as well. And I'll take for all the rushing yards we can get in the Chiefs game with all the rushers. And we'll throw Pacheco in there for a touchdown. And we'll even throw a dart at Clyde Edwards-Helaire and even Patrick Mahomes to get a touchdown. All right, guys, we'll see you Sunday morning, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Round Robin.